Did you guys know that I absolutely love reading? I read books from all kinds of different fields, and they actually help a lot when it comes to creating my animations. And recently, I came across this massive book. The book, The Ultimate Guide to Rebuilding a Civilization, is basically like an encyclopedia of humanity's greatest inventions and discoveries. The moment I saw it, the first thing that hit me was just how massive it is. I was honestly blown away by the sheer amount of content, over 180 topics, and the incredible high-quality illustrations throughout. This book was created by experts in history, science, and art, and it's packed with rare knowledge you don't usually come across. In a world filled with AI-generated images, the fact that this book contains thousands of hand-drawn illustrations alone makes it something truly worth owning. It was also a top Kickstarter project and a bestseller. And what makes it even more interesting is that there are hidden quests scattered throughout the book, which makes it really fun to read. Honestly, this feels like the kind of gift that would truly be special and remembered for a long time. You can find the link in the description and the pinned comment. Use code WANZI for 10% off. If you're into unique gifts, premium books, or just love going down rabbit holes, this one's for you. My name is Jasper. I'm a Dutch guy in my mid-20s, and I've been working as a security guard for about 3 years now. After being an event security officer for about 2 years, I started working for a security company that handled other kinds of jobs, including night shifts at places not related to events, and providing security at a few campgrounds. Since I worked a lot for this company and they grew to trust me, despite being a relatively new colleague, they asked me if I wanted to take on a job at one of these campgrounds, as it would provide a lot of hours. I agreed, thinking it would be a good opportunity to earn extra money and gain experience. Security is something I'm really passionate about. The work days and hours were long. I often worked 6 or 7 days a week, always in the evening from 8 p.m. to 3, 4, or sometimes even 5 a.m. For the sake of the story, I'll fast forward a bit. Quite a few things happened during that time, such as drunk guests, a man overdosing in his caravan, and even a woman having a schizophrenic episode in the middle of the night. In any case, none of those events stood out compared to what I'm about to tell you. The campground was large, and I was given a bicycle to get around more easily. One of my primary tasks was to patrol the grounds, since there was a curfew after 10 p.m., after which kids and teens weren't allowed to wander outside their tents or hang around playgrounds. While I built a pretty good rapport with the younger crowd, they were still kids, and they didn't really follow the rules. This led to the manager of the campground and my supervisor expanding my duties. Behind the campground, there was a forest with a large outdoor theater where music events were occasionally held. While it technically wasn't part of the campground, the kids would often go there at night and gather behind the stage. This was illegal, since you're not allowed to be in forests after sunset in the Netherlands, and it also violated the campground's curfew rules. So I was assigned to check the forest and the theater during my patrols. Now, I'm a big guy, about 6'5", and well-trained in self-defense, so a pitch-black forest didn't really scare me. I had caught kids out there plenty of times by sneaking up on them. Of course, to do that, it's important to stay quiet and low, which meant I didn't use my flashlight most of the time. One night, while patrolling as usual, I went into the forest to check it out. If you were really quiet, you could sometimes hear kids sneaking around the theater, laughing in the distance. That was the case this night, too. I sighed, thinking they still hadn't learned their lesson, even after multiple warnings and the manager threatening to kick them out. I biked to the edge of the campground where the lights and paved paths ended. I could hear whispering and quiet laughter in the distance, so I parked my bike and moved into the forest without my flashlight, staying as quiet as possible. When I reached the theater, nobody was there. I turned on my flashlight to make sure they weren't hiding, since they had done that before, but I couldn't find anyone. The faint whispers continued, but now they were coming from another direction. I knew there was a watchtower further ahead with a bench underneath it. I had caught kids hanging out there before, so I figured that's where they went. I moved through the forest toward the tower and stood behind a tree, watching the bench. Again, nobody was there. At this point, I still wasn't creeped out. I figured they had spotted me and were messing with me. My last thought was that maybe they had climbed all the way up the tower. The whispers stopped. Then suddenly, I heard a young man scream from above me. I immediately turned on my flashlight and pointed it toward the high watchtower. That's when it happened. It all happened incredibly fast, yet I remember it like it was in slow motion. A cloud-like humanoid shape, a pitch-black silhouette, appeared to fall from the tower at an unnatural speed. I only caught a glimpse of it as it passed through the beam of my flashlight. It was upside down, like it had been thrown head first from the top. It landed just a few feet away from me with a loud thud. Then, silence. I froze, convinced I had just witnessed someone die right in front of me. I widened the beam of my flashlight and scanned the ground around the tower. There was nothing. No body, no sound, not even disturbed ground. My heart started pounding louder and louder as the forest grew completely still. At first, I thought I might have been hallucinating. I was exhausted from the long hours, and maybe it was just a shadow crossing my flashlight beam, creating an illusion. But that wouldn't explain the thud or the scream. I ran back to my bike and rode straight to the bar, where the entertainment team usually stayed late. I told them what happened, and one of the women took me outside. She told me that the year before I started working there, a teenage boy had fallen from that tower and died on the spot. They never found out if it was an accident or if someone pushed him. After that, I refused to go back into that area. The fear was so strong that I ended up faking my reports, lying about me having been to the forest to check. I still don't know if I was just hallucinating and imagining things, but I am a spiritual person, and this could truly have been the echo or even spirit of the boy. In the mid-2020s, when the pandemic was in full swing, I had an experience that I will never forget. Honestly, it was a very brief moment, but that moment silenced all the doubts I had about ghosts and supernatural phenomena. I have loved horror content my whole life, from movies like Annabelle to creepy YouTube videos about supernatural rituals. I was fascinated and used to binge watch them. I even used to say that I wanted to see a ghost in real life, just once. But after that afternoon, I never had any of those thoughts again. It was around 3:30 p.m. that day, and it was raining. It was cloudy, dark, and quiet. My family had ordered groceries from a grocery chain called Big Basket. We had started using delivery since everyone had come to rely on online services due to COVID-19. Because of an address error, the delivery person told us to come out onto the street. My father went outside to pick it up and locked the front door. Only my mother and I were left at home. While my father was out and my mother was in the bathroom in the small bedroom, I went to the bathroom in the master bedroom to urinate. Due to health reasons caused by myasthenia gravis, I used to sit on the toilet to relieve myself. I was alone in the room, and the door was unlocked. Sitting on the toilet, bored, I bent over slightly and peered under the bathroom door. Through the small gap, I could see the floor of the master bedroom. Suddenly, in an instant, I saw a gray cloth moving rapidly toward the small bed. It was a sight I had never seen. It was different from the color of any curtains or fabrics in the room. It wasn't a bed sheet either. Because of the height of the bed, I couldn't see the sheets through the gap. It also wasn't a mattress. It seemed like a stiff, thick piece of fabric, the kind you might see in a prison movie. I froze. I sat up straight, bewildered. Mom was in the bathroom in another room, and Dad wasn't home. Then, who or what was in the bedroom? With my heart pounding, I cautiously opened the door. There was no one there, and no cloth. I searched the entire room. I even called out to Mom several times. She only answered me much later. Dad finally got the groceries and came back inside. But that moment, that fleeting scene, came as a huge shock to me. To this day, no one believes me. They say it's just my imagination from watching horror movies. But I know what I saw, and that incident changed the way I think about ghosts forever. And I am still curious about what I saw that day. Was it an afterimage of a spirit, or was it something else? I want to keep my name private, so you can call me Crimson. I live in a small town, and I've been watching your videos for over 2 years now. Honestly, I never thought I'd end up having a story of my own to submit. This happened about a week ago. It was the final exam day of my senior year in high school. For some reason, all the students from my school had to take the exams at a different school. That school wasn't very big, just one 4-story building, and each floor had its own bathroom. It was the very last exam, and during the test I drank a lot of water. As soon as it ended, and I stepped out into the hallway, I suddenly really had to pee. I went to the girls' bathroom on my floor, but it was packed. I thought about going downstairs, but I figured it would probably be just as crowded. I was taking my exam on the 3rd floor, and I knew there weren't many students assigned to the 4th floor, so I decided to head up there instead. The 4th floor was completely dark, all the lights were off. Every classroom door was locked, and it was hard to see anything. At least it was daytime, so there was a little bit of light coming in through the windows. As I walked toward the bathroom, I thought I saw something out of the corner of my eye, but when I turned to look, there was nothing there. I wear glasses, and I sometimes misinterpret things, so I brushed it off and went inside. I opened one of the stalls, stepped in, locked the door, and started doing my business. That's when I heard footsteps, someone else entering the bathroom. I didn't think much of it. I assumed another student had the same idea I did and came up to the quiet 4th floor. A little while later, I finished, stood up, fixed my clothes, and flushed the toilet. When I turned around to open the stall door, something caught my eye. I could see feet through the gap under the door. Someone was standing right outside my stall. I thought about opening the door, but something deep in my gut told me not to. Then I slowly lifted my gaze, and for a split second, it looked like someone's head was rising above the top of the stall door, like they were trying to peer down at me. I remember thinking, there's no way someone that tall should exist. I wanted to tell them to leave. I wanted to say anything, but my throat locked up. All I could do was stare at the feet. They looked way too big to be normal, and whoever it was, they weren't wearing any shoes. The skin was extremely dark, almost black. I stood there for what felt like 5 minutes. They didn't move. It was like they were waiting for me to open the door. Then suddenly, I heard 2 female teachers talking outside the bathroom, and just like that, the feet were gone. I let out a shaky breath and waited another couple of minutes before finally stepping out of the stall. I washed my hands and left the bathroom. Before going back downstairs, I glanced down the hallway. One of the classroom doors was open. I'm certain it had been closed when I first came up. I decided not to think about it and went back down. The exams were over and I actually did pretty well. But ever since that day, I can't stop thinking about what or who was standing outside that stall. And I keep wondering, if I had opened that door, I might have come face to face with it.